Other shows we have for you to enjoy at myclassicradio.net. The Avengers was most certainly not a household name in South Africa prior to the radio series. With no national television service until 1976, the mechanism simply was not present in the country to show television programs to mass audiences. While many other countries reveled in the filmed adventures of John Steed and Company, South Africa was not equipped to join in the fun. The series took Britain by storm and made a major impression in the American markets, being that greatest of rarities, a British series given a network transmission slot. However, as a filmed series, rather than a videotaped one, The Avengers was able to gain a modicum of exposure in South Africa through film rentals. Come and listen at myclassicradio.net. Other shows we have for you to enjoy at myclassicradio.net. 21 Precinct was a police drama broadcast on CBS from July 7, 1953, to July 26, 1956. It initially served as a summer replacement for My Friend Irma. The show was produced in cooperation with the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association of City of New York and adaptations from True Criminal in New York. The Policeman's Point of View. Historically, the 21st Precinct had been located near Gramercy Park, Manhattan. In 1929 the department reorganized the precinct numbering, and 21st designation was discontinued. No such precinct existed during the run, nor does a 21st precinct exist. However, the fictional precinct's territory closely corresponds to that of the Upper Side's 23rd precinct since 192. Come and listen at myclassicradio.net.
Calling all detectives. Private detectives get all sorts of clients. But I once had a murder case in which my client was me. That is the situation on this page from my casebook. The casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. Many people think that a private detective like me, Jerry Browning, has a lot of special rights and privileges. Far from it. I was sitting at a small table in the Montmartre, which is one of those intimate nightclubs. With luck, I hoped to see Johnny Laughlin walk into the place sometime during the evening. I wanted Johnny for having worked the flim flam, one of the basic confidence games, on a man now my client. The man who pushed his way across the floor to my table was tall, dark, heavy-shouldered.
Listen, Jake. You bother my girl again and I'll slap your nose through the back of your head.
I blinked. You're talking to the wrong man, pal. I never saw you or your girl before. All that did was infuriate the guy.
Who you trying to rinse? Stand up and fight or I'll knock that smike right off your puss.
Under the circumstances, there was only one thing to do, and I did it. I yanked my blackjack from my pocket, kicked my chair out from under me, slapped the guy with the blackjack. And instantly, the three other men surrounded me. One had a gun. I struck out at him. Heard the bullet go past my ear, and from then on was too busy to notice anything. After what seemed like hours, the lights went on. I found myself in the grip of two husky cops. There was a still figure on the floor.
Mister, you're under arrest for murder.
I got into a fight at a nightclub and found myself charged with murder. The next morning, I had a talk with my lawyer, and Lieutenant Dawson came over to see me from headquarters. They were both optimistic.
Jerry, we've got it pretty well established that the guy did pick the fight with you. The only question now is who killed him?
My lawyer shrugged. That's not our question, Lieutenant. Jerry's innocent, and I want him released. Dawson nodded absently.
Yeah, sure. That's just formality.
He turned to me.
Jerry, I want you to come down to the morgue, take a look at the body. We haven't been able to identify it yet.
I stared at the still body lying on the morgue slab, and I dreaded what I had to say. Dawson, this is not the fellow who picked the fight with me.
You mean this poor guy was just an innocent bystander?
My lawyer got red in the face.
That doesn't alter the circumstances. Jerry had nothing to do with it. A hoodlum picked the fight and...
I shrugged. Save it for court. We're liable to need it.
A license as a private detective is not a license to engage in brawls. Even though Mr. Browning did not actually shoot the victim, he is responsible for the conditions culminating in the murder. I hold him for the grand jury. However, I will accept the petition for bail.
In the 4 days previous to my scheduled appearance before the grand jury, I moved heaven and earth to find out the identity of the murdered man. All I learned was that he'd come into the nightclub alone just a few minutes before the fight started, had been sitting at a table right behind mine. For a while, I thought that the murder had some connection with Johnny Laughlin, the confidence man I'd been trying to capture. But even that slim hope disappeared when I entered the grand jury room. The district attorney shook a bony finger in my face.
Members of the grand jury, this man Browning has been a troublemaker for years. He claims to have been seeking the capture of Johnny Laughlin, who was in the custody of New Orleans police 24 hours before the nightclub murder, as Browning should have known if he were more interested in his business than in brawls. What do you say to that, Browning?
I had one chance, and I took it.
Members of the grand jury, this was no murder growing out of a casual brawl. I've uncovered evidence that makes me believe the whole thing was carefully staged. A fight picked in order to make a deliberate murder look accidental. I'm sure the man who started it did not know I was a detective. He picked on whoever was nearest the real intended victim. But something happened in the course of the fight which makes me sure I can solve the murder, if the grand jury will give a week to do it in.
The grand jury believed me, and I walked out of there with at least a technical chance to clear myself. That stuff about a deliberately staged fight was something I'd thought up in a moment of desperation. But the more I thought about it, the better I liked it. And in a conference with Dawson that same day, Dawson, the victim, came there to meet somebody. He had no papers on him because he didn't dare have any, and no money because he needed money badly. All that adds up to a Lamister of some kind. Find out who's broken out of a jail lately, or double-crossed a gang someplace, and we'll at least have the victim identified. We had the identification 2 days later.
Jerry, our man is Sandy Purcell. Used to be an accountant. Ran the books for an Eastern gambling syndicate, sold inside information to another gang, and disappeared right after that. As clear as you, Jerry.
Yeah, but that's not enough. There's a certain guy I still have to catch up with. Now that I knew the kind of man I was after, my problem became simpler. What I was looking for was a big man with a big pain in his head. Gangland has its own doctors, men who, for many reasons, are not permitted to practice medicine, but who, for a price, will extract a bullet or patch a cracked skull. That's why 5 days later I was waiting outside a grimy tenement building on the west side. It cost me $200 to learn this address, but I figured it was well worth it. It was about an hour later when the man walked down the tenement steps. His hat was pulled way down, but not far enough to conceal either his face or the white line of bandages under the hat. He was the man who had started the nightclub fight. I held my blackjack in my hand as I stopped him. Hello, pal. How's your girlfriend these days? I thought he'd faint.
Don't hit me. I'm a sick man. You almost killed me the last time.
I'll finish it this time. I twirled the blackjack, let him hear its lethal whistle. What do you say? We can talk at police headquarters, or we can go to work right here.
I'll talk any place.
His name was Pete Terrell, and he worked as a dance hall bouncer, made extra money by beating people up on the side. He wasn't in on the actual murder, but he named the 3 men from Boston who'd hired him to start the nightclub fight that led to Sandy Purcell's murder. It was an old story. A guy who sells out a gang to another gang, then gets pushed off as useless. Sandy'd been threatening to talk unless he was taken care of. So they took care of him, though not as he expected. Terrell was lucky. He only got 5 years. Of the rest, 1 got the chair, 2 others life sentences. Like I said, it makes no difference who you are. When you step into a courtroom, all you get is justice. Listen next time to Calling All Detectives. Mystery drama, mystery quiz, and a chance for you to match wits with yours truly, Jerry Browning, Private Detective.